For the multimedia component of my Wisdom from Experience project, I chose to focus on the difference between public schools and private schools in North Carolina because I interviewed a kindergarten teacher from a private school in my hometown, and I interviewed a third grade teacher in a public school in my hometown. And after interviewing these two teachers, there were some assessment terms that they used that I was unfamiliar with, so I decided to expand my knowledge on assessments in the different types of schools that we have here in North Carolina, and here's the information that I found out. So to start off, I'm going to talk about Terra Nova. Terra Nova is the assessment form that's used at Sheets Memorial Christian School, which is where I interviewed my kindergarten teacher. And Terra Nova is an assessment that's K through 12. So you can start students out taking this assessment in kindergarten, and they can get familiar with the form of assessment that is used, and they use it all the way throughout their school career until 12th grade. So they get familiar with it, they know what's expected of them on this test. One thing that I found that's different from this type of test compared to what public schools use, which is the EOGs from 3rd grade to 6th grade, is that it is an achievement test, not a proficiency test like the EOG. This means that when the student takes a Terra Nova test, it does not count against the student no matter what the student's performance is. So if a student is not a good test taker, or if they're just having a really bad day on the day of the test, their score is not going to negatively affect their grade. Instead, the score is going to show how the student has grown throughout the year, and it's going to measure the student's growth as well as the school's growth, and if the school is teaching the students the content that they need. Terra Nova also aligns to the state standards and Common Core, and unlike an EOG test, it does not test just language arts or math. Instead, it tests language arts, math, science, social studies, and one big thing about Terra Nova, which is the reason that a lot of Christian schools use this form of assessment, is that it also has a Bible component to it. So that's one assessment that I was unfamiliar with that I researched because of this project. The second form of assessment that I had heard about came from my 3rd grade teacher, who is a teacher at a public school in North Carolina, and she mentioned a lot of different forms of assessment that she uses in her class, and a lot of them I had heard before, like the EOG, of course, and DIBELS and MClass. But one thing that she said that her students use that is that I'd never heard of before was DAYS. So I decided to look this up, and DAYS is part of the DIBELS assessments. It's short for DIBELS Maze, and it's a reading comprehension assessment, just like DIBELS and MClass is. But in this form of assessment, students read a passage to themselves, and every 7th word is a blank sentence, and they're given a maze of options, which is where the name DAYS comes from. And students have to pick the correct word that goes in the blank that fits in with the rest of the reading passage. So this helps measure the student's comprehension, because if the student's not comprehending the passage, they're most likely not going to be able to pick which word fits correctly in the passage. And it also helps the student's vocabulary as they're understanding which word fits in the sentence and is used in a positive way that correlates with the passage. So those were two forms of assessments that I'd never heard of before, and now I feel really confident if I'm in a public school that uses DIBELS and they do this type of assessment. I feel confident in knowing exactly what it is, and I can talk to my teachers about it and help students if they need help with it. Terra Nova is a new form of assessment to me, and as I've looked into teaching in private schools before, I do feel more confident about that. So I feel like from this experience, not only have I gained the information from 2 new types of assessments, but I've also learned more about some technology resources that I can use. One of those my 3rd grade teacher mentioned to me is Discovery Education, and I've actually seen this form of technology used in the classroom at the school that my 3rd grade teacher teaches at before, and the students really like it. They seem to really benefit from it. So I definitely want to keep this technology resource safe because there's so many things that it could help me teach my students with. It offers virtual field trips and grade level material separated up for me, and it fits to the standards too. So that was something that I had forgotten I had seen back in high school when I helped these teachers, but I'm really glad that I was reminded of it because it is something that's going to be very helpful in the classroom. Overall, I feel that this experience has been a very positive experience for me. I've learned a lot. I've received great advice from both teachers, not only about classroom management and integration of social studies when it's hard to fit it into other lessons, but also the encouragement that I've needed to continue on and reassurance that I'm I'm learning a lot and I can use all of this stuff that I'm learning in my future classroom. So I've really benefited from the Wisdom from Experience project. And I think that after interviewing both of these teachers, I have increased my knowledge and I know where to go from now, looking at different forms of technology to use in my classroom, not only to help the students learn and grow, but also for integration and classroom management, as well as assessment types that I can use in my classroom.